Well, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are in the world. My name is Kevin Smith, and we are here today for another Workshop Wednesday. On the docket today, we are going to be talking about your editorial promise. Your editorial promise as a magazine publisher, it really affects everything that you do. And this is why it's one of the first things that we're covering in our Workshop Wednesday sessions. Now, looking at why the editorial promise matters so much, it's from your masthead, from your cover to your price, everything collectively makes up that editorial promise, and it affects every aspect of your magazine. From page to page in your magazine, issue to issue, email to email that you're sending as email broadcasts to your subscribers, everything about your magazine and delivering on this promise either draws your tribe closer or it pushes them further away and makes them not want to subscribe, not want to buy, not want to interact with you. So the motivation behind this is if you want to build a strong long-term reader base with really strong, in-deep, relationships that have depth to them, you need to nail your editorial promise and actually deliver on it. Here's what happens when you do. By getting your editorial promise right, everybody that you're working with, from your contributors to your collaborators and advertisers, your readers, your prospective readers, everybody that you're selling to, everybody knows you're a serious magazine and a serious publisher, and you're the right magazine for them to work with or to buy. And what you're going to find is when your reader confidence goes up, when readers know they're in the right place, when that confidence goes up, so does their spending. And for your contributors and partners and so forth, the people that you're working with for content, when their confidence goes up, so does their desire to work with you long term and work with you more deeply. So you get the ability to form these types of long-term partnerships that can turn into things like workshops and webinars and live conferences, things where they're more likely to be participating with you, buying paid placements and doing these types of things that, like featured stories, brand content, where they know their brand is going to be well represented in your pages. This all goes back to the editorial promise. For a lot of people, the question is, what the heck is an editorial promise? So let's address that before we go further and get into the recipes and exercises. Whether you're talking about Vogue, you're talking about a wildlife photographic, a car and driver, or a downbeat magazine, the second you look at any of these covers, that's when that editorial promise begins. And you look at something like these four magazines that we have represented here, and like that, as a reader, as a contributor, as an advertiser, you know what these magazines are about, and you're able to say yes or no, that this is something that I want to be participating in, and this is something that I want to attach my wagon to as an advertiser or as a prospective reader. As a reader, you know that Wildlife Photographic is going to be delivering on the promise of wildlife photography. It's not going to be about portraiture or architecture or still life photography. It's all about wildlife. That's it. Same thing can be said of Car and Driver. You know, if you're picking up the pages of flipping through Car and Driver, they're not talking about the latest computer chips. They're not talking about business acquisitions. They're not talking about jazz music. It's all about cars and drivers. That's it. And the same sort of ethos then carries through into the editorial copy, into the letter from the publisher, from all of these different angles. When you look at the magazines, what you're seeing is something that connects with you as a reader, something that more often than not, when you're talking about an indie magazine, is something that is going to really address the problems that you're having, help you overcome the challenges or learn whatever it is that you're hoping to learn. So let me summarize it this way with these two things. The editorial promise starts with that innate sense that you have about something. You just look at any of these magazine covers and you know, okay, I'm in the right place. And let me just sort of pivot here for 1 second and talk a little bit about film. about movies. If you're not into horror movies, the second you see that movie poster, you instantly know whether you're in or out. The same thing for thrillers, the same thing for action adventures or rom-coms. If you're not into the romantic comedy, you know from the movie poster instantly that you're in or you're out. Second thing is, as you're diving into the magazine, all of your collective collateral, shall we say, as a publisher, all of the stuff in the magazine pages, your letter from the publisher, your advertising, your table of contents, the videos that you've got, if you're using a platform like Magcast that can actually let you embed videos, all of that stuff collectively is coming together to give you that affirmation of that first impression you got when you looked at the covers. So here's your recipe. This is what you're giving your readers and prospective readers too. Within your niche, whatever it may be, pick a handful of topics, things that meet the criteria that we talked about in the choosing your niche video. If you haven't looked at it, it's available on YouTube, and we'll send a link if you're subscribed into the Workshop Wednesday email. We'll send an email out with links to these videos. So pick a handful of topics. Great. Next is look at this not from your perspective, but turn it upside down and look at it from the reader perspective. What are the beneficial outcomes to you as a reader? Why am I reading this? If you're talking about something that's, sort of light reading, sort of fluffy stuff like an Us Weekly, you'll know that it's delivering on that editorial promise, and the beneficial outcome to you as a reader is that you're getting that sort of mindless entertainment. If you're talking about a magazine like Acquisition Aficionado that's all about business acquisitions, the beneficial outcome is your skills as somebody that's looking to purchase businesses are going to go up. If you're talking about Calligraphy Crush, your skills as a calligrapher and as an artist are going to go up. Number 3 in the recipe is you're going to be circling back to this notion of the editorial promise as you start planning each issue. And I emphasize the word planning here because that's where the execution stems from. If you're planning things well, things are going to go well when it comes time to execute. And the question to be asking as you start to put together your initial planning for an issue is, are you just filling pages? Are you actually delivering? So these are the 3 cornerstones, the 3 pillars of the recipe of a good editorial promise. Pick the topics, what's the beneficial outcome, and as you're planning, check it and make sure you're not just filling pages. So here's our exercise for the week. First, we're going to ask ChatGPT. We're going to tell it you're a world-renowned expert in whatever. What are the 10 things someone wants to gain in studying or learning about X? Go beyond FAQ type questions and dig deep into the mindset of someone who wants to become an expert in, improve their skills in, whatever it may be. So we're going to take this and we're going to use the example of Little League coaching. So I've got good old GPT up in my other window here. So we're going to go use Little League coaching. Okay, so we're just going to fill in the blanks. And we're going to say to improve their skills in Little League coaching. So there it is. That's the prompt we're giving into GPT. So GPT now is going to give us back the 10 most important things that it feels people who are looking to improve their skills in Little League coaching are going to be interested in. So the things are effective communication, motivation, building team cohesion, teaching fundamentals, game strategy, handling pressure, positive reinforcement, dealing with conflict, sportsmanship, and continuous improvement, and developing a mindset of continuous learning, both for coaches and players. This sounds like a Little League Coaching magazine's editorial promise. This is like that, us going from the idea of putting a magazine together about Little League coaching to now having the cornerstone of our editorial promise. So now, next thing in our exercise, we're going to ask GPT, please summarize each of these topics as bullet points so I can transcribe them to a postcard. So some of these are a little bit long. So we're going to add the word as concise bullet points. And we're even going to say short, concise bullet points so I can transcribe them to a postcard. So like that, we're getting a list. There we go. Fantastic. I'll let GPT continue to do its thing. So this list that it's kicked out, these are the things that I'm going to ask you to take out of GPT and put onto a postcard. Put the postcard onto your magazine vision board. That's going to be sort of one of the guides that you can constantly refer back to. You've got it over your desk, you've got it over your workspace, wherever it is that you're going to be regularly working on the magazine, because these are the things that you'll find are going to be the ones that make up the backbone of that editorial promise. Now, if as you're looking at this list, obviously, if some of the things in here simply don't make sense for you, for your niche, great. So winnow this down, kick out the ones that don't make the most sense. It doesn't have to be 10. I've just chosen 10 sort of arbitrarily to give a really good look at the types of things that somebody would be looking to learn when they're trying to build their skills as a Little League baseball coach. Okay, so now that we've got this written down on our vision board, we're going to get GPT again to draft a letter from the publisher. So here is our prompt. We're going to say, you're a magazine publisher and one of the world's foremost experts in topic. With the following in the hundreds of thousands, please draft your next letter from the publisher. Here are the descriptions. It needs to fit in A4 size paper and use the voice of such and such writer. Be personal, casual, informal, and use contractions. So we'll go pop this in here and we're going to say, go grab our Little League coaching here. Bang, copy this and paste it down here. Okay, I'm just going to space this out so it's easier to read. And for the voice, let's use the voice of Mark Twain. And let's see what we get. Howdy, folks. Welcome to another edition of our beloved magazine, your trusted companion in the roller coaster world of Little League coaching. Now, I reckon if you're reading this, you're knee-deep in dirt, sweat, and your joy of guiding young athletes. Whether you're a seasoned coach or just dipping your toes in, you're in for a treat. So here it is. This is the magazine, or this is the letter from our publisher that we're going to be including in our first issue or the next issue, whatever it may be. So what we can do now is say, now rewrite it. We're going to iterate. Rewrite it in the voice, the voice of David Halberstam. He's a famous historian and sports writer. As we delve into this new edition, it's a privilege to address the community dedicated to shaping the lives of young athletes. The role of a Little League coach transcends the game itself. It's about molding character, teaching life lessons, and fostering a love of the sport. The issue aims to support you in this noble endeavor. So it's a much more serious tone now that we get, just because we've prompted GPT to take the tone of a more serious writer. And they don't have to be these superstar A-listers. You can use a lot of different types of prompts. You can tell it, be more formal, be less formal, be casual, use shorter sentences, shorter words, whatever it may be, that feels more like the type of language that you would use. So now that we've done this, and we're reswizzling, as I mentioned here, take the output, reswizzle it into your own voice. Whatever the case of what you get back, don't feel like you have to take this. Make it your own. Make it something that you feel comfortable putting into your magazine pages that really appropriately represents and demonstrates the type of content that readers should be expecting in the pages of your publication. And here's the thing. This really is important stuff. Your editorial promise isn't just yay, yay, rah, rah, foo, foo. The editorial promise is the thing that makes these types of magazines that we looked at earlier, that makes Vogue Vogue. Yes, Vogue is also made up of the 4,723 different ads that they have in it, but even the ads are delivering on the editorial promise. You're not going to see things in Vogue like ads for big data centers and server farms and technology. That's just not the editorial promise that the magazine has made. That starts with its cover, goes through the letter from the editor, and on through all of the pages of copy. Same thing for Downbeat. You're not going to see ads for camera gear or ads for high fashion women's shoes in Downbeat magazine because it just doesn't have a place in the editorial promise. So on the last note here of the day, I just want to invite everybody, if you have not yet registered for a tour of Magcast, you can go to magcast.co/tour and register for a tour with me to see behind the scenes of what the Magcast platform looks like. If you want to attend our upcoming webinar on magazine publishing, it's at the end of the month. You can go to magcast.net. That's magcast.net and register for the webinar. It's free and everybody's welcome to attend. On that note, I'm going to wrap up today's session and we'll see you on the inside.